Hey guys, and welcome to Car Guy 1999 Reviews. Sorry. So today I want to kind of create a different kind of video. I filmed a version of this and I absolutely hated how it came out. It was essentially just a rant. So I kind of want to talk about how I got started and how I drive cars like this. So some of you may know I'm shopping for a Porsche 911 right now, so I'm kind of back in the car search, and that's kind of realized where I come from and how I do everything. So my first car ever was a 2007 Kia Spectra, and that was an awesome car. I drove that thing for 3 years, manual, 5-speed. It was an awesome car. And then about, I would say February of 2016, we went to LA as a family, and I got to drive a 2010 Lamborghini Gallardo LP560 Spider down Hollywood Boulevard. At that point I said, all right, I really want to drive cars for a living. I want to drive as many cars as possible. And I forgot my GoPro at the hotel, and at that point I said, I'm gonna film every car I get to drive and document it and share the experience. And that kind of started the YouTube channel. So the first car I ever filmed for the channel was a 2015 Corvette C7 Stingray. If you look back, my first ever video was a Challenger Hellcat. Ironic now that I drive one. But the first one I ever filmed was that C7 Corvette, the yellow one. I look back at these old videos, they're awful. They're absolutely terrible. I hate watching them. So at that point, I started to drive more and more cars, and the channel started to build a little bit. I said, okay, you know, it took forever. It took absolutely forever to hit 100 subscribers. And my 100 subscriber video is a Miata RF. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved what I was doing, and I finally started to work with dealerships. That was the toughest part. Initially, all the cars came from people I met at car shows, and I finally started to work with dealerships. At that point, I realized I was going to college. I had to go to Rhode Island for college. I wanted to go into pharmacy. Obviously, now that's changed. And I said, all right, the Kia, it's getting older. And I had driven a Ford Focus ST and absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I said, I think, and this was right around when they announced the ST was going away. I said, all right, I think I'm gonna move forward on this, and I think I want an ST. I want to buy a Focus ST. So I went to the dealership after dinner one night. There was a Ford dealership across the street from where I ate, and I said, hey, I'm interested in this ST, and I have this little Kia to trade, and let's see what we can do. And the dealer, it was ironic, this is the first time this happened to me. He's like, you sure you don't want like a Focus SE? We can get you your payments on a Focus SE. I said, no, I want a Focus ST. I don't want an SE. You know, I knew what I wanted, and thanks to my mother, we haggled one heck of a deal for that car. I think back then I leased the car for like $180 a month. It was a screaming deal at the time. And this was, of course, pre-COVID, pre-inflation, pre-everything. And I loved that car. And, you know, during that time, the channel started to grow. I started to meet more people. And I finally realized, all right, I think I want to step up. And at this point, I started to get higher paying jobs and really started to build up. And I had driven a Challenger TA 392. Or no, it was a Shaker, I'm sorry. It was a Shaker that I drove. And I loved the car. I absolutely fell head over heels for the car. And I was like, okay, I like this. And this is at the time where I'm starting to build relations with dealers and stuff like that. So I said, all right, let's start looking. But I looked at all kinds of cars, and I was getting judged left and right. I was a 19-year-old kid looking to buy a $50,000 car. Come on. Like, how are you not gonna get judged? and finally found the right one, pulled the trigger on it, and that was that. Around the same time is when I got a job offer to work for Quirk Auto Dealers. You guys probably, a lot of you joined the channel during that time. When I started at Quirk Auto Dealers, I had built up a following, and I had built up just under 1,000 subscribers, maybe a little over. And I had worked with a bunch of dealerships at that point. I really started to get my foot in the door and really start to build up. And at this point, I started the channel in 2017, 2018, 2017? I think it was fall of 2017. No, sorry, it was fall of 2016, I want to say. And it's going into 2017. So at this point, I had been doing it for 3 years, or 2 years, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, now I'm completely throwing everything off. I joined Quirk February of 2020. So right before pandemic hit. So at this point, I had been doing the channel for about 4 years, just hit 1,000 subs. And the reason I got the job was I was going dealership to dealership to see who I could film with. And I got offered the job. It took me forever to accept. And I finally accepted, and I said, all right, let's do this. And I started doing daily uploads. I really, I had thousands of cars to film. And I just started, there was a point where I had, oops, I forgot I need gas. I had, I think, a backlog of videos scheduled out for 5 months of daily uploads. And the channel just started growing and growing and growing. I was at the point where I finally was starting to get monetized and put ads on the videos, and I was starting to get income from YouTube. And I said, all right, I like where this is going. And I realized at that point, I had the TA392. My dream was to get this car. I wanted to get the Hellcat, and this guy is throwing up rocks, and I already have one chip in the windshield I had replaced. I don't want another. So I kept working and making money off YouTube, building more relations, and I was like, all right, I gotta keep working for this. So I just kept going and going and building the channel along as I did it. And finally, 2020, I was lucky. I avoided COVID and everything. Until December of 2020, I was like, oh, everybody's doing terrible. I'm doing okay this year. December 2020, I was involved in an accident. I was filming a GMC Sierra 3500. And about 4 minutes into making the video, somebody ran a red light and hit the side of the truck. And that is kind of the point where everything changed. I wasn't allowed to take cars off the property anymore. It was a solid month where I couldn't drive a car at the dealership, and it was just a really tough time. And I was like, this is it. This is game over. I was lucky I had the backlog of videos, but I'm sitting there watching this backlog dwindle, and I said, I have to do something. I started to reach out to more dealerships, trying to film more videos to fill that backlog. And I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do. At this point, the Hellcat dream was gone. I couldn't do it. And so finally, after working with insurance, even though it wasn't my fault, I had the whole thing on video. And as a matter of fact, I posted that accident footage. I had the whole thing on video, everything, and I couldn't prove it wasn't my fault, and I couldn't, there was nothing I could do. And it was the most painful point in both my YouTube and life career, both literally and figuratively, because that freaking hurt. I was stuck, and finally in January, after about a month, they said, all right, you can film cars around the dealership, but we don't want them going off property, just do the risk. And I said, all right, fine. So some of you remember the videos that came out. I was driving around a parking lot just to make something work. And I was happy, I was content. I was filming 10 cars a day, working my butt off. Channel was growing. I started to reach goals that I didn't think were possible. And I loved it until September of 2021. I got laid off from the job. I'm sure you guys all knew the chip shortage and inventory shortage. At that point, the company was starting to lay people off, and I was one of them. And that was the other point where I was so happy with what I was doing. I didn't think anything would happen, and I got laid off. And I said, all right, what am I going to do? And this is where my connections for YouTube have helped me in my life. So at that point, I said, I know I'm gonna reach out to, I had gotten some job offers just after filming and stuff like that. So I said, all right, let me reach out. Within 24 hours, I had an interview lined up, and I could not be happier. I was like, this is awesome. Had the interview, everything was great, got the job, and I said, awesome. Well, what's gonna happen with YouTube? Well, little did I know that this new job would give me more connections than ever. I ended up doing used car appraisals and meeting so many people that the channel just kind of took off, and I opened so many doors. And after 2-3 months of this job, I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it. My channel had grown to just under 10,000 subs. I was earning a good amount of money from it. I felt comfortable enough to pull the trigger. So I walked into the dealership and I said, hey, when order books open for the 2022 Hellcat, let me know. Sure enough, I started watching forums. I started saying, all right, this is what I want to do. Order books are starting to open. I started working build and price. This is what I wanted. And November of 2021, the order books opened for the 22 Hellcat. Walked in and ordered this exact car. I couldn't get the sepia interior. I wanted that. I couldn't get the carbon fiber trim. I wanted that. But you know, I said, you know what? I don't care. This is the spec. I want it. Ordered the car and got a call saying that I wasn't approved. And I said, well, here we go. This is another dream down. Moved some things around, came up with more money down, and got the car. And I was approved. We were all good. And then the car came in March 2022 and worked the numbers, traded in the green car for my Hellcat. And that kind of leads us to where we are now. You know, I just have continued to build relationships with dealerships, talking to people I know in the industry, and I've gotten to the point where I now have a car that I dreamed about way back when. The first car I ever posted on the channel, I now have one. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing how many people I've met along the way that have allowed me to now walk into these dealerships and review cars like the 296 GTB, review cars that I never thought possible. And I've encountered so many no's. I've said, you're absolutely out of your mind. I've had people say you're never gonna make it just driving cars. I've made it just driving cars. I've gotten to the point where I'm now I'm now driving cars for a living and driving pretty damn cool cars. So that's kind of my life story, how I've gotten to this point, how the channel got started, and how I got the cars I did. It's taken a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a hell of a lot of money. But this is how I got a Hellcat at 25 years old. You know, I actually bought it when I was 23, sorry. 22, haha, 22. Got a Hellcat, a brand new Hellcat at 22 years old. It's something I never thought I'd ever say. And it's just taken so much time and effort going up to dealerships, asking if I could film, growing the channel, working through all the hard times in life. and it's put me on a path that I can't be happier with. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one.